So we're going to be talking about LinkedIn advertising, which is, can I just present and we'll be good?
Actually, it was already pulled up. So you just come right down here and you click that guy. And then you can make it full screen if you want.
Thank you. Cool. So LinkedIn is quickly becoming kind of the go-to B2B social media advertising space because it has, first of all, because it's intuitive. It's pretty easy to use. We'll talk a little bit about that. Second of all, because it has tremendous targeting capacity, you can really kind of like hit a very, very specific audience, that looks like your customer without really needing to know too much about the platform. And I'm going to give you the tools that you need today. And also because, people in business like LinkedIn, or some people do. I personally like LinkedIn for consuming content and and have been successfully advertised towards on LinkedIn as well. So that's kind of the background. What I will say is that LinkedIn it's always evolving its platform, and just right now it's kind of gotten to this good point where I think that it's definitely time for anybody with a B2B product that has any sort of, not substantial, but has like a decent price tag, to go ahead and start using it. It's time to play around with the platform at least. I know that a lot of B2B marketers, when using Facebook advertising, run into considerable challenges about being able to actually target the people that they want to, and LinkedIn has the remedy for that. So, how to attract a qualified audience using LinkedIn ads. First, let me just talk about, we're going to talk about setup and kind of some initial things to think about. We're going to talk about the types of advertising available on the platform because they're quite different and when to use them. And then we're going to look at the targeting options. Or we're going to look at issues of cost and what that does to kind of thinking about how to do a campaign. And then we'll talk a little bit about managing a campaign. And then I have some very, very simple use cases. And I will say that as valuable as me talking is about what I've already planned to talk about, questions are always welcome. And a lot of times kind of more nuanced things can come out of asking questions. So feel free to ask a question. I'm glad to stop and answer it. Okay, so let's talk about just the basic setup. In order to access them, this is one of the things that I sometimes miss in presentations that I'm trying not to miss, which is, hey, like, how do I actually get there? You're just going to go to Business Services on your LinkedIn, click on it, and it'll take you right to this kind of campaign manager view. And here are the two types of ads. And if you're familiar with Facebook's social media advertising, then you will be familiar with the concept behind this. There are sponsored updates, which would be like a boosted post or a traffic ad on Facebook. It is a link out from the platform to your website. It appears in the feed like a normal link, and you pay to distribute it out to new audiences. And then there are these text ads, and you see them over on the right there in the blue box, and they are just like little lead generation ads with just a custom headline, just trying to get, like that one says, are you an entrepreneur? Basically get Google Apps. So quick appeal, just trying to get somebody over and hit a conversion. And the sponsored updates, they look normal, they appear in the feed. They can already be something you've already published, like a boosted post, or not. They can just kind of exist on their own. And then the text ads, they don't appear on the page. They're not as attached to the page. They also end up being a little bit cheaper. Let's talk about this. So with the sponsored update, you kind of have more creative control because you are actually, like, this is content from your website. You have the ability to put a picture and a headline and a big beefy kind of like call to action to go and check out the article. And it doesn't look like an ad, right? It's content marketing. And you can kind of like have other interactions go on with your LinkedIn profile, follow, clicking over to your website, and displays on all devices. The text ads are brief and to the point. If somebody clicks on it, they're probably pretty qualified if you're making your kind of call to action really, really, really strong. They're service focused, they're product focused. Anybody can just make them. Like, you don't have to have an actual business page to make them, which is pretty cool. And they're a little bit cheaper. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about our targeting options. Well, maybe I can walk you through. I'll walk you through. Let me see what kind of time I have. I want to give you the most value possible.
You got 15 minutes.
You got 15 minutes. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get through kind of the core targeting options. I think that's a really, really important thing to look at, and kind of the managing the campaign stuff. And then maybe we'll take a little drive around and check things out. But basically, if you just follow along with me, when you go to create your campaign, like I said, if you're using a sponsored update, you'll just pick content you've already created and you'll sponsor it. If it's a text ad, you'll just have a little entry field for an image, for a headline, for a tagline. It's all very intuitive. They've made the system very, very streamlined and kind of easy to get into. And then once you've chosen what kind of ad you're going to do and what kind of content you're going to do, it's going to just take you right into these targeting options. And this is kind of where everything actually happens with LinkedIn advertising, and where it's important to invest most of your time in terms of your kind of strategic thinking, right? So LinkedIn has a series of, and it might be a little small on your screen, but has a series of targeting criteria outside of things just like location that you can use to find people in any industry, right? So we've got, let's go over them. We've got a company name. You can target people that are actually working for a specific company. So if you're, or a group of companies, which can be very, very valuable if you've kind of got a hit list of people that you want to, kind of your ideal client list, and they're all sizable enough to be on LinkedIn, and you can get, I think you have to have 1,000 people in your audience before you can send an ad to it. That's kind of the standard across social media platforms. So you could put in all the names of the companies that you're trying to hit in aggregate, and then send ads to people at those companies, which is super cool. Company industry, and they're pretty good about industries. Some things will not be in there just because they don't have a large enough representative population on LinkedIn, but a lot of times you can kind of fit it in edgewise and get something that's close enough to where you are, and then through other targeting criteria be able to hit the people that you want to hit. We've got the company size, and it starts at, over on the right, I've got some of these options picked out so you can see what it looks like. It's like, can go 1 basically to 10,000 plus members. Job title, job function, how long people have been at the job. Then there's a couple higher educational focuses, like what school you went to, the field of study, what degrees the person has. And then there's skills. So, on LinkedIn, people are always endorsing each other for skills, and I'm sure that, you have a bunch of skills filled out there, so you can target those. Member groups are also a very potent way to target, right? They're almost similar to the company name. Just like with the company name, we were thinking about, okay, we'll go ahead and put together all the companies that we want to hit, right? Well, member groups are similar. So if you are focusing on, people that work in, like, photographers or something, you want to target photographers, there's probably a lot of really great photography groups on LinkedIn that you can go ahead and hit. Or if you wanted to focus on, CMOs, like marketing managers in mid-sized companies, you could probably find a lot of groups that cater to those people, and then just hit people that are in those groups. Then there's just gender, age, and then years of experience. So kind of the way that this boils down is that, you can already kind of see like the level of depth that we can start to hit with these kind of targeting options. But a lot of times our campaigns will run with things like, of course, we'll do it, generally in the United States. But something as simple as doing like an industry plus a company size and then a couple of skills, and it can automatically turn up a really, really great audience because it refines down very quickly. They've got 400 million plus people on the platform. When you bring it down to the U.S., it's, I think, like 160 million or something like that. Or no, it's more like 85. And then very quickly, like if you section off the industry into healthcare or palliative care, like end-of-life care, it immediately goes down to a very, very focused level. So what you want to think about is this, right? Is you want to think about who are the people within the structures of companies that I want to hit with my B2B product. We'll go into this a little bit more, but like who's the decision maker? Who's the person that's actually going to have value from seeing this and either, recommend it to their team, maybe somebody that maybe has purchasing decisions, or let's say that you work you're selling products to architecture firms or design firms or real estate firms that are like working to build homes, right? And you've got a high quality product that's meant to be distributed to designers ultimately, right? And so you can like go in and target people that work within that industry and then hit the designers because they're going to be the decision maker on, or the person that's going to spur a buying action on something like really expensive tiling or something like that, right? So you want to think about who are the people within organizations that I can hit and that actually are going to have interest in what's going on, and then how can I make an appeal to them? So let's take another walk. We're going to talk about cost. Cost is one of the things that comes up a lot with LinkedIn, because when people jump in, and I think that people should jump in and should start using LinkedIn advertising, probably in this group.
Can I, there's one question Hillary has about whether or not the ads are being done with the paid business LinkedIn pages or regular LinkedIn business pages, or just can an individual advertise? I think she just
so an individual can advertise a text ad, which are the small little ones that are just like, hey, buy this thing, very product or offer focused. Anybody can do that. But in order to do sponsored content, which is probably where you should be thinking about doing most of your campaign work, you will need to have a LinkedIn page. You do not need to have a premium account. You do not need to have any special options or anything. You just need to have a business page for your LinkedIn. And then when you go into the advertising setup, it's very simple, but basically similar to Facebook, you have an ad account that you can apply different pages to.
Yeah.
And you can create separate ones too for separate pages if you are managing multiple businesses. Yeah, definitely. Cool. Fantastic. Thank you so much for that question. I encourage more. But yeah, anybody can jump in and start trying it out as long as you have a business page. So LinkedIn ads can cost a lot. The minimum daily budget is $10, and cost per click rates they very rarely go below $1. They're generally $3 to $7. How do we make sure that they're effective? And this is an interesting thing that people run into when they get in. They get scared off. They can get scared off from. Oh, you're so welcome, Hillary. I appreciate you. They can get scared off from doing LinkedIn advertising because those first campaigns might see really high click through, and they're not used to to seeing those kinds of things. We do have some ways of thinking about LinkedIn advertising, and also some suggestions that can help out with this. And one thing that I will say as well is that the reason that things tend to be a little bit more expensive on LinkedIn is because they do assume that you're selling a B2B product that is going to have hopefully a pretty substantial kind of lifetime value for the customer, right? Or lifetime value for you. Like, your customers are going to make you a good bit of money. So. And they also, like we went through the targeting, it's very detailed targeting in the industry, and that data, they prize it as being valuable. So things tend to be a little bit more expensive. So the first thing that you can do to kind of lower down your cost is to analyze and iterate your campaigns, to change them over time based on the metrics that are available, the kind of feedback loop that you get, which we'll go over right after this. Another thing is that you can either pay for cost per click on LinkedIn, and this is like pretty much standard across all advertising. You can either pay for somebody to perform an action, like click on the thing to get to the website, or you can pay to reach a certain amount of people. On LinkedIn, it can be smart to go ahead and try to just pay to reach all the people within your target audience. And we'll go into this, but if your audience is only 30 or 40,000 people, maybe it would be a good idea just to try to reach all of them. And pay to reach all of them, right? That probably could have a lot of value for your business. So Justin recently did a LinkedIn campaign where we just did some simple targeting and bid by CPM, right? And we ended up getting what? Clicks came down to $1. Came down to $1, which is as good as it gets on LinkedIn. That's awesome.
It was better than the Facebook cost.
It's better than the Facebook cost because we were able to target the people with these relevant interests and skills and stuff like this. And then we bid by CPM. We hit them all, and the clicks came in appropriately. And of course, good creative will always be important as well, but I will leave that up to you guys. So you can track conversions from your ad sets and landing pages with UTM parameters and analytics goals and Google Analytics to see like what was the actual value. Sure, maybe you're paying $2 or $3 for a click when you're used to paying 30 cents on Facebook, but if you're making a bunch more money and if your unit cost is coming out way in the black, then maybe it's totally worth it, right? You can try targeting. They recommend targeting big, and there's a little bit of debate about this out with LinkedIn advertisers, but you can also try targeting a pretty small audience and use this audience expansion feature that they have, just a little button that you'll see in your targeting options. And then excluding people you don't want. So you can exclude job titles, you can exclude different options. So maybe you want to exclude people that are junior level operatives at these companies because they're not going to be able to make a decision about buying your product, right? And then, like I said, consider the lifetime value of the customer. If it's high, then maybe the high cost makes sense. And then this is kind of what I was talking about earlier. So evaluating your target demographic for size, your efficiency of reach. So if your CPM ends up being really high for some reason, but you only have 30,000 people that it's possible to reach, and maybe it's a highly advertised towards audience, that would only be like 900 people to reach every single potential customer. That might be worth it, right? Because if there's 30,000 people in America that could buy your product, and that's it, that's it. Like, that's your group. Those are the people that can make your business grow. Maybe paying $1,000 to show an ad to every single one of them is worth it, right? So a lot of times with LinkedIn, it's good to think about it from like a business development, kind of business growth standpoint. Test new audiences a lot. Test new creative often if you can. Split test, especially for text ads. Set up a couple different ways of, set up a couple different ads and see how they run against each other. And of course, create great content. And finally, don't only rely on LinkedIn. I think that's important. Just relying on one social advertising platform to accomplish an entire goal for your business is never quite enough. So let's just talk about managing a campaign real quick. I'm running low on time, so I'm going to try to go quickly. Once you finish your campaign, you're going to get kind of this view. These are all separate screens where you have like, you have what you've spent and the clicks and stuff. But then you also have these little circles, and they are the same targeting options that you use to target. And then you'll see information come back about them. So you'll see, like, in terms of job seniority, there's a little example down there. On this particular campaign, I had 32.4% of the people reached were managers, and 29.7% were senior, were just listed as senior at their companies. If I need to hit the senior people, but I see that my ad is reaching the managers, then maybe what I can do is I can try excluding people with manager titles and then only hitting those seniors, right? So, and then if I look at the size of companies, about 40% were the 51 to 200 employees, and 27% were 11 to 50 employees. Maybe the product really works better for 11 to 50 employee sized companies, so I can go ahead and exclude the 51 to 200 person sized companies, right? So this is kind of like where LinkedIn gets great. They give you back a lot of data that's actually your same targeting criteria. So then you can go ahead and just remove and add things based on the data you're getting back, and that's kind of like the continual optimizing that can create a really great campaign or keep a campaign fresh, is paying attention to who's actually engaging with your content, making sure they're the right people, and then changing your targeting over time. So I've just got a couple use cases to close things out, and then I'll take a couple questions. So you could have a text ad, like warm lead generation. So you could do a text ad with an offer or a service. They click on it, and you capture an email, and then you convert through email or another ad service. They've got I've got this. Oh wait, I can minimize this, can't I? Sweet. Sponsored update content marketing. You offer a piece of free content. Again, you capture an email. You convert them over time. Creating traction for a high-ticket product. I said be a company with a bajillion bucks, but that's not really necessary. But like mid-sized to large companies, a lot of times will do basically market product with. Is Camtasia? What's wrong?
Hold on one second. Oh, okay. We've got a little.
Okay.
I'll just give it a quick test and make sure everybody is still connected in. Go ahead and so maybe it'll allow some people back in.
Mm-hmm. Is there a tracking dash for these ads? I'm not sure if Sujan can hear me. Do you think we're back in?
Yeah, we should be.
Okay. Okay. Great. So is there a tracking dash? Yes, there is. I can go back and you can just look at it. The tracking dash is this kind of left view, and it doesn't have any data there because I just didn't have a client campaign pulled up for sensitivity of information purposes. But yeah, it has your impressions, your clicks, your click-through rate, your CPC, your CPM, how much you're spending. You get back a good bit of data. So that's the tracking dash. And it opens up, when you open up your LinkedIn ad view, it goes into that. Yeah, so this last two use cases, you can create traction for a high-ticket product. You can distribute a bunch of content and basically about a product before it happens, and then have people go and sign up to learn more about it. And then the decision maker is kind of the one that I went through, which is a really typical use case. Having a product that's like a team member at a company that makes the decision about buying that kind of product will buy. Use kind of a combination of text or update ads and schedule some sales calls, get them to your website, start converting them. I will say that LinkedIn also allows you to now upload your email list and do remarketing. If you're not familiar with what remarketing is, go ahead and check it out. It's the ability to put code on your website and then follow people back to their platform of choice and send ads to them basically on LinkedIn. So yeah, it's a couple new capabilities. But that's kind of the overview of it. LinkedIn offers tremendous capability to micro-target people within organizations that you want to hit. It can be a little expensive, but we've given you some tools to drive that cost down. And if it's worth it, it's worth it. If it's making money and the unit cost is good, then it is worth it. Remember that.
That's just me.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Excellent. So if there's any more questions, we're pretty much at the end. Go ahead and let me know. And there's me. I've got my email. You can always email me as well. Ooh, wrong email address. Okay, well, you can email me there too. I'll reply to you on my business email. So, yeah, any questions? Absolutely welcome. It's a great platform. We've seen success with it. It can be a little bit tricky, but it's very user intuitive, which is very, very appreciated.
Well, I just want to point out, too, that we've had a lot of conversations with our students about just B2B marketing and really focusing in on where your target audiences are. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of B2B people are asking that question of, is Facebook really the right fit for us? And even if we can get in front of the right companies, do we feel like Facebook is a place where we're going to be able to engage them? And I think it's important to just consider your options between these two platforms when you're doing that B2B push.
Absolutely.
And I think your use cases are awesome because it sort of gives people a clear idea of how you would actually use the system and how you would target things specifically.
Yeah, and you're basically, if you want to go and start a LinkedIn campaign today, create a good piece of content on your website, put it up on LinkedIn, and then boost it out to an audience that you think will appreciate it, and try out 100 or 150 bucks and just see how it goes and use the tools we've given here to optimize along the way. You might be surprised at how good your results are.
Great. Well, thank you so much. As usual, I always enjoy listening to you.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I learn a ton of stuff every time. So again, if anybody's got a last question they want to throw out, I'm sure we can stay for just a few extra minutes and answer them. But I know most people have to get back to the rest of their workday. So we appreciate all of you joining us for our monthly free webinar. You can expect a follow-up email with a link to where you can download these presentations. You'll also get some information about the recordings and how you can watch both Justin and Edwin's presentations and go back over some of the information they've shared. And hopefully you will join us again in the future on the first Wednesday of the month, typically for other webinar topics. And I want to just encourage everybody, if you have topic ideas or things you'd like us to cover, please feel free to reach out to Justin. You can also reach out to Jenna or I, and Jenna's the person who typically emails you the information about the calls. So feel free to throw us ideas so we can discuss topics that are valuable to you. And again, we appreciate all of you being here. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.